Hey everyone, if you're building a Dash application within Dash Enterprise and you need a robust way to handle large data sets, caching, and immediate results, or managing data that updates independently of your Dash application, then you need to know about the persistent file system. So, what is it and how does it work? Within Dash Enterprise, you have this workspace that you can work from. If you go into the workspace section and if you move over to the persistent file system, you can edit the persistent file system and you can enable it for your Dash application. What this does is it creates a mount folder within your Dash application, and we can see that over here on the left hand side of the screen there is a shared explorer, and within here this is your mount directory. And within this, you can drop files directly into it, or you can save and automatically create files within it. And that's the demonstration that I'm showing here because it's a little bit more advanced, but it gives you more functionality of how you can actually use this. So you can drop a CSV file or any specific file that is readable into this folder, and then within your Dash application itself over here, you can kind of see how I set this up. I created a mount path where I'm getting the current directory, and then I'm just going into the mount folder because that's what this is labeled as. And then I'm just looking for the file that I created. So this one's dynamicdata.csv. Within that, I have the typical app layout where I have a loading, and then I have some buttons, and then within here, I have an output for a graph, which is going to be the figure. So this is going to create the DCC graph after everything loads in, and with that, it will read the file, and it will show the data within the graph. So alongside that, I created this task.py file to kind of show how you can fetch data and create a file within the persistent file system. So this isn't a Dash application. This is just a script used to create the CSV file that we can see here. So basically, I'm telling it where to save this file to. It's the exact same thing as the app.py, where I create a mount path, a data file, and then I kind of conjoin them together. With that, I created this function to initialize the file, and with that, it basically goes through and it gets the date time of this moment, and this will be the current time, and then it gets a random value using random, the package, and it picks between basically 50 and 150. Then it throws it in a data frame, and then it updates the CSV file, and then it adds that to the count, and then it creates, and then it sleeps for 5 seconds before creating another one. So to show this in action, we have two terminals here. We can see that this is going to be the app file that I created. If I go over to it, we can see it in action. If I refresh, you can see that nothing is happening currently. If I go back into the workspace, and if I go into the other terminal, I could run Python, and then what I'm looking for is over here, the task.py. So task.py. And as you can see, this is going to update within the terminal, and the values are appending and updating. So it's relatively slow because it's every 5 seconds, but now if I go over here and if I refresh the data, you can see that a lot of time has lapsed since I initially started it, and then it's starting way up here, and then if I refresh again, there's going to be more data. So what is happening here is it is saving it to this dynamic data CSV file. So this task file is doing that. And what I can do to kind of show this in action, if I wanted to create a working application and production, I wanted to run both at the same time, I could use the proc file. So within the proc file, I have GUnicorn used to run the Dash application within the Flask server. That's the first line. And then I have a specific worker that's designated to just run the task.py file. So basically, in parallel, if this application goes to production, it's able to run the Dash application alongside run this script that will constantly update the data to be shown within the Dash application. So with that, I hope that this gives a base understanding of how to use the persistent file system. Ideally, you can just drop any large data up to 25 gigabytes, I believe, within this persistent file system, and you can read it in, and it will load much faster because there is locally cached and returned to the Dash application rather than needing to directly be read in, which could take a persistent amount of time. With that, you can dynamically update and add files to it with what I have shown here. And I hope that this is a useful understanding of how this all kind of works. If you'd like more information, you can look in the documentation, which will include a link down below, which could help guide you through more of the project and the knowledge needed to fully understand this concept. But with that, check out our videos and our playlist, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.